Today showing you how to create probably the trippiest sound in music making history. It's constantly rising, rising and rising. Hey guys, good morning and welcome to today's vlog. As promised yesterday, today a full tutorial. But first I gotta share this. I got a Snapchat by the person that got my keyboard that I gave away a month ago. It finally arrived in Argentina and I can't tell you how happy it makes me seeing it being used in someone else's studio and actually being his first keyboard to produce music. So good luck to him and everyone else that is just starting making music. It takes quite some time to get there, to make something that sounds good, but if you stick to it, put a lot of effort and time into it, and just never ever give up, you will eventually end up making music for a living.
I want something solid, another doubt of promise.
Welcome to the studio. I think we need a little bit of light. I'm at the moment working on the details of the effects of one of my songs that is so close to being finished for release. And there is this one very typical and famous always rising effect sounds that a lot of people use in their music. I personally heard it the very first time maybe 10 years ago in one of the Swedish House Mafia songs. It was in the background, always constantly rising, giving the entire track a whole lot of energy. But it's actually an old technique. It was used a lot by Hans Zimmer for his scores. A lot of other people already used it, and I think it's one of the very typical techniques every producer should know how to pull off. So now you might think there is no way to have a sound that is always rising, and you're right. If you just pitch through the frequencies, there is an upper limit, 20,000 Hertz, that's the maximum humans can hear. There is also a maximum at the bottom, 20 Hertz, 30 Hertz, it really depends on your ears, but you can't hear that low, you can't hear that high, and the older you get, the worse it even gets. If you want to make a sound always rising, you have to use a little trick. You have to copy this sound multiple times, 3 times, 4 times is best, because this way one of the sounds is rising, the other one is rising an octave below, and when it reaches its highest point, it's actually the lowest point of the octave above it. So it exactly looks like one of these barber, I don't know what they're called, but they seem to appear to go up forever. So to make this effect, a lot of people actually do it with MIDI, and it doesn't really work. That's not how it's really done, because the MIDIs, it's like one tone to another, and you need actually all of the tones in between. You need to go through all of the frequencies. I've made it really quick how a lot of people show it online, but you will hear it for yourself. It doesn't really sound like an infinite rising sound. If you now make it with 4 or 5 layers, it might sound a little better, but you actually have to do it in another way. I've used here the EX24, it's the sampler by Logic. The good thing is if you just load it up, it comes with a normal standard sine wave tone to it. I've created a MIDI that is just the A note for 4 bars, and as you can see here in the pitch band, I made it pitch from 0 to the maximum, to 62 in the MIDI. And in the sampler, I set the pitch to go up to 12. So now it's pitching up over 4 bars by exactly 1 octave. By the way, the earlier you started not hearing the sound anymore, the worse your ears are actually. Then it's just a matter of copying it down and changing the octave on all of the different MIDIs. So one is plus 24, plus 12, 0, minus 12, minus 24, minus 36. And then you just let all of them play together. And now you can obviously hear when it jumps and it loops, because that's mainly Logic's fault, the looping isn't perfect. To make it a tiny bit more seamless, you can fade out the highest octave and also fade in the lowest one. For me, it still didn't really work, so I actually bounced it out into audio, and then you don't have this starting gap kind of sound. It's reduced by a whole lot. That right there is the shepherd tone, the infinite rising tone. It sounds a little weird. You can also do the same, just opposite, letting the notes go down, which makes it even spookier. You could also, instead of creating it yourself, just sample it. If you type into YouTube shepherd tone, you will find an infinite 10-hour file of this tone, and you can just sample it and use it in your music. But the big advantage of making it yourself is that you can play around with the tone and the sound, because right now it's just a boring sine wave. You could add a little bit of noise to it. You could actually use a square wave or a way more complex synthesizer sound. The possibilities are really endless. Just go try it out. It's a fun way to play around with it, and it's used heavily in EDM just to have this constant rising high energy level. It's a pretty simple concept. It's like those optical illusions that trick us in seeing things that aren't there, and it could be actually something interesting for your next song. Maybe having it in an EDM banger, just the infinite rising sound in the background to make it way more uplifting. If you make film music, you should already know about this. Gaming music, it could also be a cool trick to implement it in there. But the key, as always with these kind of techniques, is not overusing them, having it subtle in the background, and not using it like constantly in every song and everything you make. It's something you should use whenever it is necessary. Getting that shepherd tone absolutely perfect is actually quite hard, especially just with a normal DAW. A lot of people create it actually with scientific equipment and record it and then loop it again. So I will provide down below a link to a perfect shepherd tone, 10 hours of it. If you're interested, you can just enjoy it for 10 hours straight. If you end up totally insane, not my fault. There's also a link for the falling shepherd tone as well. If you just want that standard sine wave shepherd tone, I would advise you to sample it. It's easier and faster and sounds accurate. If you want to play around with it, having different tones, different synthesizer sounds, and actually make it work with your music, then just do it yourself and try it out. That's already it pretty much from the vlog for today. Don't forget to check out yesterday's video where you could vote for the next remix competition. That's quite important. Voting will be up for another week. And also don't forget to like, subscribe, tune in tomorrow, because tomorrow's vlog is actually quite exciting. I'm going to my mastering engineer who has this huge, big, cool studio and knows everything about mastering and music. He's a very skilled guy. He's doing all of the mastering for Robin Schulz. He's going to master tomorrow 4 or even 5 tracks, 1 my own and 4 for my Accents label, the upcoming releases. So definitely don't miss that. Tune in tomorrow. That's it. Sign out.